I know, but come on, we gotta do it. Talk about another episode of STD. This one was The Sounds of Thunder. And, probably the best of this series. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. Well, I'll get through the negatives already. Tilly was annoying, but it's very brief. Michael Burnham, I think I can only recall. Probably if I watched it again, which I won't. It's not that good. But I can recall one scene where she has to tell Captain Pike what to do. But there were far more scenes of him in command and in control, and having to. It was mostly a Saru episode. Well, in fact, it was a Saru episode. They go back to his home planet because the Red Angel is sending them there. And so they go back there, and of course Saru, once he discovered that the whole culture or what have you of his people is a complete lie by their enemies, the Baiul, who basically bred them to be prey for them. And surprise, surprise, we find out it used to be quite the opposite. And so somehow the Baiul, on the verge of extinction, managed to get the better of the Kelpian people and develop superior technology. And now the roles are reversed. And so Saru wants to break that up and all this stuff. And he meets his sister. He wasn't even sure was still alive, but there she was, and all that. And now a lot of this is rather rushed, where you have a culture that has no idea about alien life and spaceships and all that sort of stuff, and then he just has to give her a crash course on it, which she kind of accepts that pretty quick. But I don't know how you would think there would be some time on a series like this that's behind a paywall and all that. They could have stretched it out maybe, but then again, old Star Trek would do these sort of things. They were getting to the point, and sometimes things were just kind of rushed. A lot of things were just left up to maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't, and they would leave where, whether it was Picard or Kirk would say, now you have a whole future to look forward after they break up their entire religion almost, stuff like that. I mean, that Prime Directive got violated all the time. Well, so that's a weakness in it, but the performances here with Doug Jones does all, kind of carries the show, and Burnham is not as annoying as she had been. She's just sort of there and kind of a witness to what he's doing. But we see the new Saru, who gets irritated and angry, and when all this is very personal, and he's being belligerent to the captain. Well, for once, this has an explanation behind it, because we know what he went through when he discovered what he thought was his inevitable death, and turns out no, he just needs to change and become the creature he's supposed to, which is what the Value has been manipulating for these people. And so now he has a more aggressive streak, and it's new to him. And so you can understand why it kind of gets out of control, when before he was the guy who was more by the book and everything, and he never would have spoke out against a captain like that. So there you have that. And this is a scene where eventually Pike just has to order him, get out of the bridge. He has to lay down the law here. And it's rare that we see him actually be in command. The big secret, of course, that the roles used to be reversed, and that the Va'ul has manipulated these people into remaining undeveloped and denying them their evolutionary process and all that sort of thing. The Discovery crew figures this out because they've got all the records from the entity sphere thing that they ran into in the last episode, and they managed to download I don't know, millennia upon millennia of data, which is probably more data than any of the other Star Trek shows would have collected on their voyages. So it kind of the whole thing should be mapped out right there. So all of a sudden they figure, hey, let's look at the history and see what's the history of the, I'm forgetting the name of the home planet. Yeah, you probably should have done that in the first part. So, gee, Doug, why did you like this episode? Well, of course, this always comes to comparison, because this is, in my opinion, a failed effort on this series. So by comparison, this does shine forth. And it's closer to a Star Trek episode. It's pretty much encapsulated within this story. I'm sure it might be refer back to it if this series survives, where his sister might come back or something like that. But yeah, primarily by comparison of others, like I said, the irritations and the weaknesses were few beyond what the other episodes have done. Now, hardcore science fiction guys who really understand science, and science fiction is supposed to be rooted in scientific fact and theory. Now, theory can change over time when the more data comes in. So, and there was a guy, I forget his name, I think it was on the Midnight's Edge, and he's a science fiction author and actually wrote for Star Trek and all this stuff, and he was explaining things that this show just takes far too many liberties, very loose, with things that would, it's all like the red dots are all over the galaxy, and how many light years in between is just like, yeah, but by the time he got there, they would be gone. So, I mean, it was kind of the foolhardiness of the show. And Star Trek was probably the one popular science fiction series that did at least make more of an attempt to stay rooted into scientific theory, whereas something like Star Wars is just fairy tale with ray guns and the lightsabers and all that. You don't really expect them to do, which is probably why some of the complaints from the prequels when they introduced the midichlorians is that's more something Star Trek would do. And yeah, it's true, it was. Just leave the Force mysterious and all that. But so that's one of the failings, and so there might be more in this episode that I'm just not aware of because I'm not smart enough. That could be some more failings to it, but overall, this one of this season is probably the best. And another one that's closer to Star Trek, the one they had with the people who were, the Red Angel had moved and removed them from Earth in the past and left them on this other planet and all that, was more of a Star Trek-like episode. But again, a lot of things rushed, and then it was over. But this one, I think, is even better than that one. And speaking of the Red Angel, we did get a very close glimpse of the Red Angel, which looks to be some woman in some sort of spacesuit. A lot of technology going on there. No surprise there. And of course, how much do you want to bet it's actually Michael Burnham from the future trying to fix things that went wrong? She's taking a quantum leap through the Trek universe, and who knows, at some point they'll come up with something that resolves all the continuity problems that are inherent with this series, that just can't possibly fit at all. And whether or not what Midnight's Edge went on about it's almost ridiculous to even argue it at this point. It's the only thing that makes sense, that this is not really connected to the original shows. This is a separate universe, if you will. So, but anyway, sounds of thunder. There was no thunderstorm. No, what a ripoff. But obviously, the big change of this species, and that guy, they enact a way to how Saru, it was activated his big change, his metamorphosis, and then they forced it onto the rest of the people. I gotta imagine quite a few Kelpians probably died of a heart attack during that, and they don't give you the little details. But it's all left up to his sister to explain to the people what really went down. And then you can imagine, boy, not a lot of people would be all that accepting, and there'd be a lot of problems. And you can assume, yeah, there probably will be. But that's again like, oh, if the show survived, would they revisit it? And maybe there's problems, and maybe some Kelpians decided to go back the old ways and start wiping out the Bayul. And then the Federation finds itself in the odd position of having to defend these creepy looking dudes. At first, the Bile coming out of that, he comes out of this black pool, and he's all like oily looking and with red eyes and stuff. At first, I thought they were going to refer that this was the same species as the one that killed Natasha Yar, but that would require the writers and producers to have actually seen a Star Trek episode. so whatever. Boy, after watching Orville, which is infinitely far superior to this show, it's hard to what the reward would be. But I guess, boy, it's between 2.5 and 3. I guess for Doug Jones, yeah, I'll give it 3 stars. So there you go. Sounds of Thunder from STD. Oh boy, what happens next? The teaser for next week's episode said Spock's in it. Looks like it, so he'll finally be there. Yeah. You know, with the narration from that guy, I forget, Ethan Peck, I believe, Gregory Peck's grandson, he does have the voice kind of down pat. Probably a little better than Zachary Quinto did. So, I guess there's that, but can't make a final judgment until we actually see him in action. But of course, it looks like he's crazy. He's babbling to himself. So Michael Burnham, we'll have to bring him back. Yeah. All right, thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores that have plenty of goodies for you. Yeah, you.